Moments ago, on the 5th floor of the basement, when Kim Suho and Shin Jong-hak finally faced each other, seeing Kim Suho in front of him, Jong-hak said that he had been waiting for this moment for a long time. He arrogantly asked, "Are you racking your brains to find a way to escape right now?" While taking out his sword from its sheath, with a big smile, Suho said, "Not at all." Seeing that, Jong-hak said that he was really looking forward to how long his pretentious attitude would last. He then told him to come forward. He would show the difference in strength between them. Suho just smiled at his dismissive tone. After taking a stand, he then rushed to attack him, but Jong-hak was able to quickly block his attack. Suho had expected that. He then told him that he would not be going easy on him. Jong-hak was not afraid to hear that. He was even happy. He told him to show his best ability. After that, they then repeatedly exchanged attacks. The fight between the two of them was so fierce because there was no noticeable difference in the strength of the two of them. Jong-hak then took a step forward, and forcefully thrust his spear towards him. But fortunately Suho was able to quickly dodge his attack, but it managed to create a gap in his movement. Jong-hak was then happy to see that. Not wasting it, Jong-hak then jumped up, and strongly thrust his spear down. His attack was so strong that it cracked the floor that Suho was originally standing on, but fortunately he was able to quickly avoid the attack. Jong-hak was annoyed to see him continue to dodge like a rat like that. He was determined to hit him in the next attack, but he was then stunned. He could only feel confused seeing his spear stuck in the cracked floor and could not be pulled out. He could only curse. It was hard for him to believe that he had made a beginner mistake like this. Realizing that, Suho then attacked him using his foot. It made him fall to the ground and made his spear slip out of his hand. Seeing Suho pointing his sword at him, Jong-hak could only groan in frustration. Suho said. He told him he wouldn't go easy on him. Hearing that, Jong-hak said, "Who said it was over?" Suho was then confused at that, not explaining further. Jong-hak then destroyed the floor to his left. When Suho was about to ask what he was talking about, he was then surprised when he saw a gas pipe next to Jong-hak that had been destroyed at this time. After that, an explosion then occurred due to a gas pipe leak. Suho then covered his face from the dust and gas floating in the air. After the dust and gas slowly disappeared, he was then surprised when he saw Jong-hak who had disappeared there. Jong-hak went down the stairs to the lower floor after successfully escaping from him. While looking up, Jong-hak muttered. He was caught off guard for a moment earlier. He promised to repay him next time. That was the reason why Jong-hak could be on the 6th floor at this time. He then greeted them. But he then felt confused when he saw Rachel's face. Seeing Rachel, who seemed to have a suspicious expression when looking at him, Jong-hak did not understand what he was thinking at the moment. Seeing the 3 disqualified cadets in front of them, the swordsman then asked him, "Did he do this?" Jong-hak was silent for a moment. He then confirmed it. Rachel gasped at that. The swordsman himself felt that it made sense. Because he had cleaned up the cadets, he felt like they didn't need to come here. As for the actual incident, after Jong-hak lost to Suho and went down to the 6th floor, he then found Yona and Nayun who had difficulty facing someone who was fast enough there. Seeing that, he then gave a surprise attack by throwing his spear and managed to defeat 2 cadets. Jong-hak thought, although it felt like he stole a kill, but it was true that he was the one who defeated them both. Rachel was silent while clenching her hands tightly. Jong-hak then asked them, "In any case, now I can take over the leadership of the black team, right?" They happily accepted it. The swordsman then asked Rachel, "You will come with us, right?" But Rachel said that she would separate. The swordsman was then confused to hear that. He then invited her to come with them, but Rachel once again refused. She said that she could move alone from now on. The swordsman still tried to convince her. It would be better if they moved together, but Rachel once again refused his invitation. She thanked him for his invitation. After saying that, she then walked away from there. Rachel's reason was simple. She didn't want to be on the same team as someone who stole other people's achievements. Seeing Rachel, who was now walking farther and farther away, Jong-hak irritably thought, "Why do I feel that I am to blame?" Not caring about that anymore, Jong-hak then invited them to move. After that, the mock relic war proceeded very quickly. As Jong-hak's team continued to move, they then gathered the surviving members of the black team, and managed to steal 2 relics. Rachel also got a satisfactory result by using guerrilla tactics. Beyond the team victory, they both managed to secure satisfactory individual achievements. As for Kim Suho, he really showed his outstanding leadership and fighting skills in this training, plus the relic owned by Lee Ji-eun. They managed to move a total of 5 relics, and for Hajin, he managed to survive Yona and Nayun's combination attack and managed to survive the relic war in his own way. His way was very simple, he just waited inside the toilet until the training ended. He also hacked the CCTV near the cadets to watch their battle, but Hajin suddenly remembered something. He felt like he had forgotten something. But he still couldn't remember it after trying hard to remember it, so he put it aside. He thought that he would definitely remember it if it was something important. In the toilet on the 7th floor of the basement, after who knows how much time passed, Tomer finally woke up from her sleep. Her head was still feeling dizzy at the moment. She could only curse that she could fall asleep. She didn't forget the mission, she had to find the item, but she was then surprised and confused when her watch showed 3 p.m., but she didn't put any suspicion and instead assumed that the watch was broken. She couldn't believe that they told her to use this in the mission. So she then took out the cadet smartwatch that Cube had given her, but the time shown by both smartwatches turned out to be the same. Tomer could only feel confused seeing that. What happened to the watches? After she opened her smartwatch, she got one message that she had not read. It turned out to be a message from Cube announcing the end of the Relic War. There were 12 cadets from the black team, and 11 cadets from the white team. The black team managed to get 3 relics, while the white team managed to get 5 relics. The MVPs of the white team were Kim Suho and Chai Nayun, while the MVPs of the black team were Shin Jonghak and Rachel. The white team had won the Relic War this time. Tomer was then very surprised to know that the Relic War had ended. She then immediately got out of the toilet, and rushed towards the management center. After a while, she finally arrived in front of the management center. Tomer seemed to be running so fast to get there so fast, but it was useless, because the management center was closed at this time. Tomer shouted in frustration at that. After being repeatedly thwarted, Tomer's mission progress while in Cube was 0%. After the training was over, Kim Suhyuk then gathered all the cadets in one place. When the cadets rested their bodies there, Kim Suhyuk then took their attendance, but when he called Tomer's name, there was absolutely no answer from her. Kim Suhyuk chuckled at that. He wondered, if Tomer was not finished, what was that kid doing? Putting that aside, Kim Suhyuk then said he would announce the details of the results and the MVPs. The black team, 12 survivors, and got 3 relics. The MVPs were Rachel and Shin Jonghak. The white team MVPs were Kim Suho and Chai Nayun. 11 survivors and got 5 relics. Based on those results, he then announced, the winner was the white team. The cadets who were on the white team then cheered happily when they heard that. But not for Nayun. She didn't look happy even though her team had won. She annoyingly muttered, what good is it even if the team wins? The reason Nayun was so annoyed was simple. She couldn't finish her battle against Rachel. She couldn't even beat Hajin even though she had 5 people helping her, although Shin Jonghak also intervened in the middle, and also, the rumor that Hajin liked Rachel. When Nayun was thinking about that, Yona suddenly came up to her and asked, did you think about Lee Ji-eun's words? Nayun then felt embarrassed when caught like that. She then denied it. She said that she didn't even remember what she said. But Yona certainly didn't believe that. She then asked her, what if he gets snatched if you keep acting like this? Nayun gasped at that. She then blushingly asked, what do you mean by snatched? She told her not to talk weird. Yona laughed out loud at her attitude. Nayun shyly said, what is so great about him to make her think? Yona was pensive for a moment. She said that she didn't really believe in such rumors. But what if his feelings changed because she stayed away from him too much? Nayun could only be silent hearing that, seeing Hajin who was now chatting so close to Rachel. Nayun said, if he changed that easily, it means he's not for me. Yona chuckled at her answer. She then ignorantly asked her, who do you like more, Kim Suho or Kim Hajin? Nayun was then very annoyed at her attitude. She then annoyingly said that it was not what she thought, but Shin Jonghak suddenly walked up to them at this time. He then asked her, why are you shouting so loudly? Yona felt so happy when she saw him. Nayun then tried to change the subject. She asked, your team lost, right? How do you feel? While pretending to be handsome, Jonghak said that it was unfortunate, but because he became the MVP of his team, it was good enough. He also said that it could not be avoided, because she was on the white team. The antenna on Nayun's hair immediately stood up when she heard that. With a proud attitude, Nayun said that he had a point. Yona was speechless seeing her attitude, but their attention was then distracted when they saw Kim Suhyuk scolding someone at the moment. That person was of course Tomer. Kim So-hyuk then irritably and angrily asked her, why did she stay in one place during the training? He told her to try to explain her behavior. Tomer's face was so pale and haggard when she heard that. Seeing her not answering his question, Kim So-hyuk then yelled at her. He told her to answer him. Is it just a joke to her? The cadets then confusedly wondered when they saw that. What happened? Jong-hak then said he would leave first if there was nothing else. Yona then said goodbye to him. But Jong-hak's attention was not at all on her. He asked Na-yoon not to forget to send a message. Na-yoon could only feel confused hearing that. Why? Yona herself could only feel depressed at this time. She then called her. Na-yoon confusedly answered her call. Yona asked, if you don't like Kim Ha-jin or Kim So-ho, maybe the one you like is Jong-hak. Hearing that, while making a face like she was staring at a crazy person, Na-yoon then asked, are you crazy? Seeing that, Yona immediately knew that Na-yoon didn't like Jong-hak. She then told her that she was envious of her. Na-yoon could only feel confused by what she was talking about. The reason Yona could envy her was simple. Na-yoon had 3 people that she could choose from, while she herself didn't have any. That fact really made her sad. With that, the last midterm's large-scale practical training, the Relic War, officially ended. Ha-jin's body was shaking as he finally returned to the dormitory. He seemed to be very tired at this time. He didn't write the Relic War episode in detail, so he was still there just in case, even though nothing happened until the end. While complaining of fatigue, Ha-jin thought that he should deliberately disqualify himself. When he had just gone inside, he then saw Evangel who came to greet him. Ha-jin's mood immediately increased when he saw her cuteness, while carrying her. Ha-jin said that he was hack. He asked, did she have fun? Evangel happily replied yes. Seeing the spirit animals in the room, Ha-jin felt that she must have had fun. He then asked her, didn't you forget what I told you about the spirit animals? Evangel replied yes. She shouldn't let them go outside. Ha-jin confirmed that, but he was then confused when he saw Evangel looking all over his body. Evangel asked, where is the food? Ha-jin completely forgot about it because he was too tired. While feeling sad, Evangel asked, did he not bring the food? Ha-jin immediately calmed her down. He said that he had ordered something on the way. It would arrive soon. After telling her that, with a sense of urgency, he said that he wanted to go to the bathroom first. After distancing himself from her, Ha-jin then immediately opened his smartwatch and ordered various foods online. He then breathed a sigh of relief after successfully completing that, but he was then surprised when he read a news from his smartwatch. It was news about the success of the Packhorse Master Guild in the Suwon Magic Cave raid. He was originally worried because there was no news from them for quite a while, but finally the news appeared. Then, he wondered, what about the shares? He then decided to check how much the 1.5 billion he had invested had increased, and how surprised he was when he saw the shares that had now jumped dramatically. He was really very touched because the 1.5 billion he had invested had now become 13 billion. His thoughts then turned contradictory. He wondered, the amount would continue to grow, right? But he felt he should sell it now just in case. Whatever the case is, he's now rich enough for him to fool around and do nothing for the rest of his life. After calming himself down, Ha-jin then sadly thought, even so, will all this money disappear when he returns to his original world? In a city in Korea, at the Geronimo mercenary office, a man could be seen working in front of his computer at the moment. The man turned out to be Jane in disguise. She was now looking for a job that the trainee mercenary could take. There was a requirement in the mission for the entrance test. The mission was to kill as many people as possible, but the target had to be someone who deserved to die. After searching for a while, she then found a suitable mission. She then immediately contacted the boss and said that she found one. The boss asked, what was the request? Jane replied, Italian mafia, suspected of being a djinn. Jane then explained the mission in detail to her. The boss was quite satisfied with the mission. Jane then hesitantly asked her, did you get the answers you needed? Would Kim Ha-jin join the chameleon troupe? The boss said yes. He gave a positive answer. Jane was surprised to hear that. She asked, what was his answer? The boss said, he said he would contact her later when there was time. He immediately gave an answer on the day they gave him a business card. Jane felt something was wrong hearing that. Wasn't it 2 weeks ago? The boss confirmed it. That meant they would soon receive his call. She told her to accept the mission, and just as Jane was about to say something, the boss said she would hang up. Jane could only remain silent. She really couldn't understand her boss. She wondered, was it because she never socialized, or was she just not good at understanding situations? Jane decided to be ignorant about it, she just did what she was told. Near the Cube girls' dormitory, Ha-jin was seen casually walking there. This was his first time near the girls' dormitory, and while he was looking around, he then saw someone he knew. It was Rachel. Ha-jin then immediately walked over to her and called her. Rachel was quite surprised when she saw him. Ha-jin asked, was she on her way to the library? Rachel confirmed it, because the midterm exam was approaching. She then asked, what was he doing here? Ha-jin said that he had business here. Seeing Rachel's haggard look with bags under her eyes, Ha-jin felt that she looked a little tired compared to usual. Even though there was still time before the exam started, Ha-jin was confused. Why did she study so hard? A guess then appeared in his head. Don't tell me it was because of him. Ha-jin was silent for a moment when he realized it. He then said to her, by the way, lately you have rarely asked me about academic matters. Hearing that, Rachel thought, it feels like she took advantage of him when she found out that he liked her. She then said, trying to solve it yourself is also important. She also advised him to study too. Ha-jin said that he didn't mind that. He told her to just ask him what she didn't know. Don't hesitate. Rachel thanked him, because she couldn't bear the shame. Rachel then said she would leave first. Hearing that, Ha-jin then said goodbye. He was surprised to see her walking so fast. He was confused. Was studying that important to her? After that, Ha-jin then continued his journey. The reason why Ha-jin was near the girls' dormitory was because he had an appointment to meet Yona there. Yona seemed to be waiting for him there. Ha-jin then called her. Seeing him coming, Yona then asked, so, what business was he looking for? Ha-jin said that it was just a trivial thing. He asked, you started a pharmaceutical company, right? Yona was surprised to hear him know it. She was silent for a moment. She then said that she had no intention of hiding it, so it was only natural that he knew. All her acquaintances were the same. Maybe it had been a month or two. She asked, so what? While throwing something at her, Ha-jin told her to catch it. Yona then quickly caught it, but she was then surprised when she saw something that Ha-jin threw earlier. It was a 5-year-old wild ginseng. The ginseng was accidentally found by Ha-jin on the way back from the Gamak mountain dungeon that he and Soho cleared. He had long been confused about what he wanted to do with the ginseng. Because now his money was more than enough, he didn't need to sell it, so he thought it would be better if it was used as an elixir. Having decided that, he then immediately started the action. He planned to use Stigma's mana to turn the ginseng into elixir, but, let alone turn the ginseng into elixir, the Stigma's mana was not even active at all. He could only feel frustrated by that. He had no other choice. He then thought of someone he knew who had enough connections and had the facilities to make elixir. That person was of course Yona. Seeing the wild ginseng in her hand, Yona then asked, did you give it to me? Ha-jin told her to think of it as an investment. He told her to use the ginseng as research material for now. She could pay him back through high-quality elixir. Yona was really confused at the moment. Wild ginseng was rarely found these days. Even at the Violet banquet, she was confused as to where Ha-jin got it from. Seeing her silence, Ha-jin then asked, is it possible? Yona was silent for a moment. She then said, of course. She assured him, it would take time, but she could return it to him with interest. Ha-jin was happy to hear that. He knew that Yona wouldn't reject it, because Yona's pharmaceutical company was destined to succeed, but that was another story for the next 10 years. Since she had just started, it would be hard for her to find materials of that level. Yona was then surprised when she got a call from someone. She then asked Ha-jin to wait for a while. Ha-jin understood. He wondered who was calling her that she could have such an expression. Seeing Yona's face that looked very serious, Ha-jin thought, it might be better if he eavesdropped a little. The person who called her seemed to be at a hospital. He said that he was at Daehyun Hospital. It was the hospital where Chai Jin-yoon was. Lately there were strange rumors circulating among the nurses, rumors that Chai Jin-yoon's fingers were moving. The details still had to be confirmed, but Ha-jin could only be silent hearing the news. Yona then said that she understood. She would contact him later. While putting on an attitude as if he didn't know, Ha-jin then asked, what's wrong? Yona falsely said that it was just a matter of network management. Ha-jin understood. Yona said yes, but she then hesitantly asked him, why is your expression like that, while turning his face away? Ha-jin said that it was nothing, he would leave first. Yona was then surprised to see him suddenly leave just like that. She then shouted thanks to him for the wild ginseng. She promised to repay him many times over. Yona was still feeling confused at this time. seeing Hajin who walked further away. She was confused why he suddenly behaved like that. After finally arriving at his dorm, Hajin then opened the Book of Truth. Hajin was silent for a moment. He then asked the book, when did the devil's seed inside Chai Jinyun's body sprout? But he didn't get an answer after waiting for a moment. Seeing that, Hajin felt that his magic power was not enough to ask such detailed questions, so, he then changed his question. How much had the devil's seed sprouted in Chai Jinyun's body? Right after he asked that, the stigma's mana and the Book of Truth then lit up, and an answer then appeared in the Book of Truth. The devil's seed in Chai Jinyun's body had sprouted by 89%, knowing that the devil's seed had still not sprouted. Hajin guessed, the fact that his finger was moving might just be a reflex movement of his body, but the latent development period that he set was for 5 years, because now 4 years had passed since Chai Jinyun was in a coma. The remaining time meant that there was only half a year left. While Hajin was deep in thought, he suddenly got a message from someone. The message turned out to be from the boss. She asked when he would contact her again. Hajin just stared at the message without replying. He really felt dizzy at this time. Half a year, that means after winter ends, and before spring arrives, he must kill Chai Jinyun. While Chai Jinyun looked like he was fast asleep, the monitor that was monitoring his body suddenly showed a movement at this time. In that quiet night, in a hospital ward that had been inhabited by a comatose patient for many years, a sudden change occurred in the monitor that had been running in a monotonous line, and Chai Jinyun, who had been motionless like a dead person, his fingers suddenly showed a movement at this time. The next day, this was the day when the Cube cadets went to class as usual. While excitedly pounding on the blackboard, Young-han then asked his classmates, "You know that this week there is a class competition, right? Everyone is required to participate in at least one activity." Hearing that, the cadets then discussed about the event. Hajin just remembered that there was an event. He forgot about this class competition. As the name suggests, it is a competition between classes. This competition covers almost all fields, from skills related to combat, to arts and sports. If this was a formal class, then he would only participate in the combat field, but because this is an event for cadets, he decided to join in the fun. You can call this event as the sports day for Cube. Hajin then asked Rachel, who was next to him, "Are you planning to participate?" Rachel was quite surprised by his sudden question. She said that she was planning to participate in the quiz, but Young-han, who heard her words, immediately said that the quiz is full, football and basketball are also full. He told them to remember that. They could only be silent. Hearing that, Rachel was confused about what she should do. Hajin then asked Young-han, "Then, what is left?" Young-han replied, "What is left is singing, and archery." Young-han then remembered something when mentioning that. He then immediately asked Hajin, "What if you join the archery competition?" But, Hajin suddenly glanced at Nayun when he heard that. Realizing his glance, Nayun then asked him, "Why are you looking at me? I'm not participating in archery." Hajin just silent. Hearing her response, he then told Young-han that he thought he could participate in archery. Young-han was happy to hear that. He then said he would write down his name. Nayun frowned slightly at that. After that, Haji then quietly looked back towards Tomer, who was sitting in the back seat, while Tomer herself was lost in thought at the moment. A few moments ago she received a message from the Truth Agency saying that they agreed to Jamie Zammer's request. That seemed to be Tomer's pseudonym. Tomer had made the request for a long time. She thought it was a dead end because they did not reply to her message. She wondered if these Truth Agency people could be trusted. While clenching her hands tightly, Tomer thought, "It doesn't matter who they are or when they reply, as long as I can find out the whereabouts of that bastard." The bastard Tomer was referring to was certainly her father, whom she hated. Hajin could deduce what she was thinking just from her gestures. Last night, he got a message from Hosiop. He said that he decided to quit his job. He had sent the application form to the information guild he mentioned earlier. Hajin smiled slightly reading that. He then said that it was a wise choice. Hosiop thanked him for his recommendation. He also said that he finally found out who Benjamin Agus was. Hajin was then shocked to read that the news about Tomer's father that he asked for finally came out. He then immediately asked him, "Can you find out his whereabouts and what he is doing now?" Hosiop looked a little hesitant when reading his message. He then replied, "He's already passed away." Time passed. We finally arrived at the day when the class competition event started. The atmosphere in the cube looked very lively at this time, with the cadets enthusiastically watching the matches held there, but not for Hajin. he was still thinking about Hosiop's message related to Benjamin Agus. According to the information that Hosiop had unearthed, he lived in a nursing home in Korea. And he heard that he died 4 years ago. Just in case, Hosiop said that he would send the address of the nursing home to him. Hajin was pensive thinking about it. So, Tomer's father was dead, no wonder the Book of Truth couldn't find him. Soon, the main storyline will continue, so he must take care of Tomer's case before that. After thinking about it, Hajin then stood up from his seat and quietly walked away from there. His departure was witnessed by Yona. She was quite confused to see him suddenly leave there. Hajin visited a place that looked like a church with a cross displayed at the top of the wall. Hajin sat on one of the chairs there while looking at the cross, but he got disappointing results. He thought he would feel something holy, but it was not so. With a face that looked like a person who had a lot on his mind, Hajin then opened his smartwatch and opened Messenger. He contacted the boss, and asked if the pay there was good. He got a reply shortly after. The boss said that the compensation was guaranteed. They also provided identity protection for the apprentices of the Geronimo Mercenary Company, until they became official mercenaries. Even after they became mercenaries, they could maintain their anonymity if they wanted. Hajin was pensive reading that. Geronimo Mercenary Company, Chameleon Troop is a criminal group. Although they have unwritten rules against unnecessary killing, they are still no different from the evil society when it comes to killing and looting. But, if he joins the Chameleon Troop, then he doesn't have to worry about deviating from the main storyline. Because the pay is quite good, he can take care of unexpected situations that will arise. And most importantly, he can kill Chai Jin-yoon. Hajin knew from the beginning that he couldn't do that alone, but committing a crime still weighed on his mind. He hesitantly wondered, can I really kill someone? Hajin was not sure. This world was no longer just a fictional story for him. While Hajin was immersed in his thoughts, someone suddenly entered the church at this time. It was Kim Soho. Soho was surprised to see him inside. He asked, "Are you Christian?" Hajin was a bit surprised by his sudden question. He then said that he wasn't, but Hajin then asked him back, "Are you a Christian?" But Soho said that he wasn't either. He then sat next to him. While looking at the cross that was displayed on the wall there, Soho said that he was just remembering the past. Hearing that, Hajin then asked, "Did you used to go to church or something?" Soho kind of didn't know how to answer his question. He then just said, something like that. Hearing that, Hajin then asked again, "Then, are you Catholic?" Soho answered no. It didn't stop there. Hajin then asked him again, "Then, are you Buddhist, Mormon, or Zoroastrian?" But Soho again answered no. Hearing that, Hajin asked him again, a question that surprised him, "Then, is it a religion from another world?" Soho gasped at the question. Soho then said that it was something ridiculous. Hajin was silent at his answer. After a moment of silence, Soho then asked him, "Do you believe that another world exists, a world like in the Lords of the Rings or something like that?" Hajin was pensive for a moment hearing that. He then said, "The outcall happened 50 years ago. If we just think about the world in AD, there were no monsters or mana in the world for 1970 years. So instead of saying that monsters suddenly appeared on Earth, it wouldn't make more sense to say that they came from another world for a certain reason." Soho was silent for a moment at his words. He was then about to ask his views on it, but Hajin didn't give him a chance to speak and replied to his words earlier. It was part of Dr. Zer's theory regarding the otherworldly hypothesis. After recalling for a moment, Hajin hesitantly wondered, was it one of the theories that tried to explain the outcall? He was then convinced by it. This theory was often ignored because it was unclear, but he felt this theory was convincing. What he meant was, the outcall itself was already strange. Trying to explain it logically was where the contradictions began. Soho could only be stunned to hear that. He then exhaled while chuckling. He said that he thought it made sense. Hajin was a little surprised when he saw his reaction. If you think about it, Soho might be in a similar situation to him. The difference is, because Soho came to this world when he was a child, and even got a new family, at least, he might not feel lonely. Hajin was silent for a moment when thinking about that. He then stood up from his chair and said that he would leave first. Soho understood. He said that he would stay here for a while. Just before Hajin left the church, he then remembered something. He then asked Soho, "By the way, you don't have an agent yet, right? I can introduce you to someone." Soho was a little surprised by his sudden offer. He said that he planned to enjoy his time. Judging from his tone, Soho didn't seem to have an agent yet. Hearing that, Hajin continued, "It's just that there is someone I want to recommend." Suho was surprised to hear that. He then thanked him. As Hajin was about to leave the church, he then looked at Suho for a moment, and thought, Kim Suho must get stronger, much stronger than what was destined, because Kim Suho was the only one who could face uncertain danger, and he was also the only way he could somewhat survive. When Hajin left the church, Suho was still sitting there looking at the cross on the wall. In the midst of his daydream, Suho clenched his hands tightly. When night fell, Hajin then logged into the game and sparred against Nayun as usual, but Nayun again lost as usual. She was quite frustrated with her defeat this time. She had used her ultimate strategy earlier. Seeing that, Hajin then comforted her. He said that she had gotten stronger quite fast. In just a few months, he would not be able to beat her. Nayun was surprised and happy to hear that. Hajin then asked her, "Why haven't you slept today? Didn't you say that there was an event at the academy tomorrow?" Nayun said that the event was more like playing, so she didn't take it too seriously. She also didn't feel sleepy yet. Hearing that, Hajin suddenly asked her, "Is something bothering you?" Nayun confirmed that, something like that. Hearing her confirmation, Hajin asked her again, "Is it a love matter?" Nayun gasped while blushing when she heard that. Nayun originally wanted to deny that, but she then decided to be honest. Hearing that, Hajin asked her again, "What is it?" He said that he is a good listener. Nayun was silent for a moment with a shy feeling in her heart. After setting her heart, Nayun then told him. Nayun explained, "It's like something I can't have, but I don't want others to have it." Hearing that, Hajin then remembered a term, a white elephant. It's when there is something that you don't get a benefit from but you don't want others to have it. Nayun confirmed it. Hajin was a little speechless hearing that. If he is considered a white elephant, that means he must be very popular, right? Nayun continued. "You could say that I was thinking about that white elephant." Hearing that, Hajin then asked, "Why? There must be a reason, right?" Nayun confusedly scratched the back of her head. Hearing that, she said that she was also not sure. There was no specific reason that she could think of. Hearing that, Hajin wondered, "Are they that attractive?" He then asked back, "If you really think about the white elephant, then why don't you go for it?" Nayun didn't know how to answer when she heard the question. Seeing that, Hajin then said, "If you continue like this, then that white elephant will be stolen from you." Nayun gasped hearing that. She then surprisedly asked that. She also said that it doesn't matter if it was stolen or what. Hajin sighed hearing that. He then said to her, "You said it doesn't matter now, right? But you will definitely regret it later. It's not just a white elephant anymore. Now that he has caught your attention, you will only see his good side from now on. You said that you think about him, right?" The next day, this was the time when the archery competition was held. A host then announced, "The archery competition for the Veritas and Cultivation class has been completed." Currently the first ranked was just as Haim, who hit the 320-meter target. Nayun, who was watching the match, suddenly sighed in frustration. Yona, who was with her, then confusedly asked her when she saw that, "Why did you sigh like that?" Nayun just replied, "Nothing." She then looked at the audience seat behind her. She was confused. Why were there many mages today? Hearing that, Yona explained, "They said there would be an 8-star mage coming." She thought they all gathered in order to see her at least once. There were only 308-star mages in the whole world. This was a rare experience. Nayun finally understood when she heard that. Shortly after that, they then saw 2 cadets walking hand in hand towards the field. It was their class turn. One of the 2 cadets turned out to be Hajin. Right after that, the host then announced, next was the Veritas class representative, Kim Hajin, and the Devotion class representative, Baru Moraine. The rules of this competition are simple. Both representatives will shoot an arrow at a target in their respective paths, and the one who can hit the farthest target will win. This is the same as the betting match conducted by Hajin and Nayun in the past. Participants only have one chance to hit each target, but there is one difference, the host continued, starting from a distance of 50 meters. He then invited Hajin to start his shot. Hearing that, Hajin then prepared his arrow, but he suddenly felt a pressure pressing on him. It made him unable to stand properly. The pressure came from the mages. They gave a lot of effects to make it difficult for the participants. In this world, just hitting the target is not enough fun for the audience or the archer. But still, aren't these effects too heavy? But Hajin realized that his complaints would not be heard. While watching the competition behind the glass, someone in the mage's room then asked, "Is that your nephew?" The mage herself was named Archduchess Ahane, an 8-star mage. Hearing that, Ahane replied, unofficially yes. She asked, He is growing fast, right? She agreed with that. He looks much better when side by side with that average boy. Ahane chuckled at that, but, while looking at Hajin, she said that his posture with his bow is not bad. She pondered for a moment. She then asked the person next to her, I can take over from 350 meters onwards, right? No one will be able to reach 350 meters anyway. She was a little surprised to hear her request. She was a little hesitant about it. She then recalled the words of her boss who told her to obey all Ahane's requests. She may look like a child, but she is old. Maybe she will consider teaching here someday. With some hesitation, she then said yes. After all, this was not an exam and just an entertainment event. She felt that the cadets would feel honored just because of her presence. Ahane was surprised and happy to hear that. Time continued to flow. Hajin had now successfully hit the target. With a distance of 300 meters, he wiped his sweat while sighing with relief seeing that. Moraine then praised him, you turned out to be great too, it looks like your talent is not a lie. Hearing his praise, Hajin then said, you look quite relaxed. While raising both shoulders, Moraine then denied it. He felt this might just be because of the difference between their skills. He asked, did things like this bother you? Hajin felt annoyed at his dismissive tone. He then asked him, did you not even think that your aunt might be trying to make things difficult for me? Moraine seemed to think so too, but he then tried to refute his words. He felt that he was talking nonsense just because he didn't think he would hit the target. Hajin could only be silent when he heard that. His words were not baseless because he felt various effects that made it difficult for him when he was about to shoot his arrow. Shortly after that, the host then announced, the two managed to surpass the first rank record. Starting from a distance of 350 meters, the target speed will be increased and the situation will change. Now it's Baron Moraine's turn. Moraine smiled confidently while preparing his aim. When he heard that, Hajin could only smile helplessly at this time. He knew that Moraine was Ahane's beloved niece. He did not expect that the support Ahane gave Moraine would go this far. While he was preparing, Moraine was then shocked and frightened when he saw many roots appearing on all sides. Hajin was also quite surprised when he saw the appearance of the roots. He just found out that 8-star mages can do things like this too. But, the roots didn't seem to trouble Moraine at all. They looked very calm. The roots even seemed to be petting him. But, Moraine seemed to feel scared when he saw the roots. With a heart still filled with fear, Moraine then shot his arrow, but, his shot missed the target. Moraine was then shocked and regretted when he saw that. Seeing that, Hajin then said to him, the first basic thing of an archer is to maintain calm. The host then exclaimed regretfully, unfortunately, Moraine has failed. Ahane also looked very disappointed when she saw that, but she didn't think too much about it, because this would be the last time too. If the boy beside him failed too, then the result would be a draw. The host then said, next, it's Kim Hajin's turn. Hearing that, Hajin then took a step forward. Right at that time, roots then appeared around him, but, different from the roots that looked very friendly to Moraine earlier. These roots seemed very ferocious. While preparing his shot, Hajin thought that he just needed to shoot past the roots, but he felt that they looked angry at him. But since this competition was just a game, he would not take it seriously. Hajin then activated bullet time. Various objects seemed to move very slowly in his eyes at this time, but he was then surprised when he saw the trajectory of the roots. His direct line of sight to the target had been deliberately blocked by the roots. Hajin felt that he had been completely cheated here. Even if he could see the target, if it was like this he could not hit it. But he suddenly got an idea. He forgot about it. It was his skill called recognition. In the random enhancement system, he could recognize 5 pieces of equipment. The stats of the recognized equipment would increase by 1 to 44%. The selected percentage would last for 24 hours and would be reset randomly after 24 hours. Hajin decided to recognize the bow and arrow, the elasticity of the bowstring and the flexibility of the arrow that would provide elasticity. He would increase them. After he decided that, Hajin then shot his arrow. The arrow seemed to meander nimbly between the roots and loudly towards the target. They looked surprised when they saw it. They were confused when they saw that the arrow could turn. And when the arrow successfully hit the target and destroyed it, the host then announced, Kim Hajin from Veritas class. He successfully hit the target at a distance of 350 meters. Moraine in disbelief then asked him, who are you really? You use mana, right? While helplessly holding his head, Hajin then said, if I did use mana, wouldn't your aunt be the first to realize it? Moraine was really shocked at this time. He knew that his words were true. he just couldn't believe that people he underestimated could do such an amazing thing. Hajin then annoyedly threw his crossbow to the ground, the crossbow then rolled as a result of the throw. With an annoyed face, Hajin then said to him, "This is a real class difference." Moraine could only chuckle with annoyance at that, not caring about her anymore. Hajin then walked away from there. Right at that moment, the host then announced, with Kim Hajin's success in hitting the target at 350 meters, he is now listed as first place. Hajin walked away from the field amidst the cheers of the audience who were amazed by his performance. Seeing Hajin's annoyed face, Yona with a faint smile then said, "He always has to have the final say." While Nyan herself was deep in thought at the moment, she then recalled the words of her sparring partner whom she admired, "Now that he has caught your attention, you will only see his good side from now on." Nyan's face blushed when she remembered that. She felt that she might have gone crazy. The final competition was held on Sunday, and with the end of it, the class competition was officially over. Many memorable moments at the competition were later immortalized into a photo. After the busy event ended, Hajin was finally able to enjoy a peaceful time with Evangel after a long time. Hajin smiled to see Evangel eating the fried chicken he bought so ravenously. But he was then surprised when he suddenly heard a notification sound from his notebook. He turned out to get an email from the Geronimo Mercenary Company. When he opened the email, he then saw a message containing a mission. It was an apprentice mercenary mission with difficulty level D, and a reward of 300 million won or items of the same price. The purpose of the mission was to kill Siemens, the closest aide of the Korean Mafia's Torino branch leader. Siemens had committed many crimes such as murder, rape, intimidation, and human trafficking. His fame had spread throughout the Turin region. There were also rumors that he was a jinn. Reading that, Hajin was quite surprised to get an assassination mission targeting the Italian Mafia. The Italian Mafia thrived during the outcall, taking advantage of the weakened government control. They've got a robust system and are very united, so they're starting to look like a nation by themselves. Korean is a group that is directly involved in the middle part of the main story. Hajin estimates that the aid of the branch leader should be around low grade, grade 1 to 2. Hajin is a bit speechless getting a mission like this. He did agree to a test from the Chameleon Troop so that he could write his own story, but, isn't this mission too difficult for an apprentice mercenary? He was also confused. Is this really a mission with difficulty level D? Putting that aside, Hajin then focused back on the mission. In the email it was mentioned that the target of the mission was likely to be a jinn. Hajin was somewhat relieved to know that. He thought he might feel less guilty if he killed a jinn. While Hajin was immersed in his thoughts, he was then startled by the voice of Evangel who suddenly called him. He then immediately asked, "What's wrong?" With the remaining food stuck to her face, Evangel then asked, "Can I eat one more?" That little girl actually ate an entire container of fried chicken without realizing it, but Hajin didn't forbid it. He told her to eat as much as she wanted. Evangel was happy to hear that. She then went back to eating her food while humming a song. Hajin decided not to start his mission in a hurry, and planned to make preparations first. Hajin then opened his status window, to the Constitution menu. In this world, Constitution refers to something that has been born. This is the same as talent. There are various kinds of Constitution such as extraordinary recovery, great control over mana, and superb digestion. You can think of these as body talents, and the Constitution that Hajin wrote is, body that can't use mana. With this Constitution, he can only hold mana in his body and can't take it out, but instead, the mana accumulated in his body will not disappear, but will become vitality and will accumulate in his body. The accumulated vitality can be used to increase her physical stat twice, and he can use vitality instead of stamina when moving. The conclusion is, the restriction of being unable to use mana with the body that can't use mana, enables the positive effect of having vitality constitution. Ordinary people would say that this constitution was the worst, but from the beginning Hajin couldn't use mana, so he didn't suffer any disadvantage from this. The mana from the stigma was different from the mana from the physical body. Vitality substitution didn't have lasting practicality, but it could withstand ambushes that would cause instant death. While looking at the status window, Hajin felt that this was the best for a low-level hero like him to survive in the main story. Body that can't use mana requires 500 SP to write. Hajin was surprised and happy to read that. The use of SP was not too much. He felt that maybe it was because the restriction was very large. Without any hesitation, Hajin then confirmed it. Right at that moment, various system screens then appeared in front of him. the special stat, accumulation of luck, was activated. Golden letters began to flood to form sentences. Shortly after, a system screen containing the explanation of a skill then appeared in front of him. When calamities become blessings, there is a possibility that a small amount of accumulated vitality can permanently increase the stat. The possibility of increasing the stat is influenced by a stat of non-variable type, luck. Hajin was surprised to find out that it can increase the stat permanently, even if it is only a little. This is still a free stat boost, right? Hajin was amazed by it. He would feel happy even if he only got a 0.0001 stat increase per day. With a feeling of excitement that enveloped his heart, Hajin then cheered that this was amazing. Seeing him who suddenly became noisy, Evangel then annoyingly reminded him, "We shouldn't talk while eating." Hajin laughed awkwardly at that. He then apologized to her. The next day, Hajin went to pick up the obsidian bracelet that he had entrusted to the Soul Magic Tower. Hajin seemed to be quite satisfied with the result. There were two magic aspects that Hajin ordered to be implanted into the bracelet. The first was damage absorption. It filled up automatically when the user received an attack. The attack would be converted into mana and stored in the bracelet. When the bracelet was exposed to the air, it would slowly fill up the mana. The second was intermediate enhanced magic power, has the effect of consuming mana to fire enhanced magic power to the user's desired location. The size of the enhanced magic power and damage absorption depends on the amount of mana stored. At the time of taking the bracelet, Jin at that time explained to him, enhanced magic power is something that you can only use once in a lifetime, so he asked him to please use it only when he really needs it. Hearing that, Hajin felt relieved, because he felt that the mage who carved the runes on this bracelet did not know about its automatic charging function if he said so. He also felt that Jin was quite honest, unlike his first impression of him. Hajin could only laugh when remembering that. He then thought of introducing him to Yona when she set up the magic tower later. While Hajin was immersed in his thoughts, someone suddenly called his name. Hearing that, Hajin then immediately turned his head towards him. It was a familiar voice to him. The person who called him turned out to be Park Suhyuk. Park Suhyuk apologized to him. He asked, "Have you been waiting for a long time?" He then invited him to go to the office immediately. After a while, the two of them then arrived at the office. Hajin looked amazed at them. Look inside the office. Seeing that, Park Suhyuk asked him, "It's getting a lot better, right?" Park Suhyuk explained, "They already have 11 employees. He also has 5 exclusive hunter contracts." He also said that the office was an investment from Yona. Hearing that, Hajin said that this looked great. After explaining all that to him, Park Suhyuk then led him to a room. In the room, there was a sport bike parked there. This was what Hajin had asked him before. Hajin exclaimed in amazement. Looking at the motorcycle, Hajin looked very satisfied with the appearance of the motorcycle. The body was shiny. Seeing that, Park Suhyuk asked, "It's not bad, right? It's not an ordinary sport bike. It has the name Augusta Vigilante. It is equipped with a vehicle frame made with advanced magic power. The weight can be reduced while the reinforcement is maintained. The weight of the vehicle frame has been reduced to increase speed, and reinforcement is done to compensate for the fragility caused by it has been maintained. The user can also temporarily increase the speed of the motorcycle by burning mana." Reading that, Hajin thought, "No wonder this is so expensive." He then thanked Park Suhyuk for getting this for him. Hearing that, Park Suhyuk happily said that this was not a problem. He asked him to just let him know if he needed anything. Although he was also aware that he would not be able to fulfill everything he wanted, but the bag carried by Hajin suddenly shook at this time. Seeing that, Park Suhyuk confusedly asked, "What is it?" His question was then answered shortly after. He was then surprised and confused when he saw a puppy coming out of Hajin's bag. The puppy's appearance was really very cute. Park Suhyuk even felt adorable when he saw it. He asked, "Why do you have a puppy?" Hearing that, Hajin only said that he had just gotten it. Park Suhyuk was quite confused at his answer. "It's like it's not him." Hajin could only laugh awkwardly at that, but Park Suhyuk's phone suddenly rang at this time. He then asked Hajin to wait for a while. He had a call, but when he returned, he then told Hajin that he thought he had to go now. There was something he needed to attend. Hajin didn't really mind that. He said that he was also done here. Hajin thanked him for today. He said he would stop by again next time. Park Suhyuk understood. He then said goodbye to him. He also said to the puppy that Hajin brought that he would see her again later. The puppy then barked when she heard that. As Park Suhyuk left there, Hajin then with a feeling of anticipation looked at the sport bike parked there. He decided to try it right away. He took the puppy he was carrying to go somewhere without any prying eyes. After a while, the two of them then arrived at a place. Hajin had made sure that there were no CCTV around there. He had also added settings to the motorcycle. It cost a total of 100 SP. Hajin decided to test it. He named it Portability Activation. Right after that, the motorcycle beside him suddenly shrank, and turned into the shape of a suitcase, although its shape had shrunk this time and became more flexible, but it was still quite heavy when he lifted it. Hajin estimated that it probably weighed more than 20 kilograms. Portability activation allows him to use Stigma's mana to compact an object into a suitcase. Hajin then looked at the puppy in the bag. He was sure it must be really stuffy in there. He thanked her for staying there. The puppy turned out to be Evangel, who was in disguise. She was bothering Hajin to take her because she wanted to visit Seoul. Hajin then asked her, "Then, should we go?" Hearing that, Evangel confusedly asked, "Where?" Hajin replied, "Eat something delicious." The city center in Seoul looked very crowded at this time with many people walking there. There was also Yona. She was currently walking with someone. The person told her to look carefully. In the future, all this land will belong to her. She is Jin Yojung, the Yona's mother, the real estate maestro. Hearing that, Yona then asked her not to worry. She had already thought about how she would utilize everything. Yojung was happy to see her daughter's confidence. She felt that her daughter was very reliable. She wondered why her father was so immature. He didn't even know how to invest. Hearing that, the guards behind her then thought, "I guess even you Jin Yong the Berserker is just an ordinary husband at home." Hearing her mother's disappointed tone, Yona then said, "He has gotten much better lately." Yojung just sighed hearing that, but Yona was then surprised when she suddenly heard a commotion behind her. They seemed to both be watching someone at the moment, and as Yona walked over, she was then surprised to see Hajin there. He was indeed wearing glasses, but she was sure it must be him. Putting that aside, she then looked at the direction that people were fussing about, seeing the Evangel that Hajin was holding. At this time, she wondered, who was that kid? Yona was shocked to see that. It was like she got a new clue at this time. Yona thought that she had to find out about it. She was then about to call Hajin and approach him, but her hand was suddenly held by her mother at this time. Her mother asked, "Where are you going?" "We have to visit the tenants of our buildings now." Yona was a bit surprised by her mother's sudden action. She then said there was something urgent she had to do, but her mother didn't let her go. She said she had to stay here. She would inherit all this later. Yona really didn't know what to do at the moment. She then felt anxious when she saw Hajin walking further away. Yojung said they were too late. While dragging her, she then took her daughter to leave. Yona really felt helpless at the moment. She felt that she really had to check on that. After walking for a while, the two of them then arrived at a restaurant. Evangel was seen eating her food with gusto. The people around her looked adorable with her cuteness. Seeing her expression, Hajin then asked, "Does it taste good? Is there anything else I want to cut?" Hearing that, Evangel then replied, "Onions." Evangel really enjoyed the food. It felt very delicious in her mouth. Evangel was then about to eat her food again, but her movement suddenly stopped when Hajin asked her, "Do you think you can independently pass this Sunday alone?" Hearing that, Evangel then confusedly looked at Hajin. Seeing her who stopped eating, Hajin then felt panic. He realized that she was going to cry. He then immediately calmed her down. He promised to buy all the toys she wanted today. He asked her to just say if she wanted something, but Evangel replied listlessly when she heard that. Hajin was really confused about what to do at this time. He couldn't bear to see her depressed like that. In his moment of confusion, a waiter then came. He came with their order, tomahawk steak. Evangel's eyes lit up when she saw the dish. She then enthusiastically told Hajin to cut it immediately. Hajin was speechless seeing that. His worries seemed to be in vain. After the two of them finished eating, Hajin then took Evangel for a walk to buy toys as he had promised. Hajin asked, "What toys do you want?" Evangel replied that she wanted puzzles and Legos. But, when the two of them were walking to the toy store, Evangel suddenly saw something. Looking at Evangel who suddenly stopped walking, Hajin then confusedly asked, "What's wrong?" The reason Evangel suddenly stopped walking turned out to be because she saw a kitten at this time. She looked adorable with the kitten's cuteness. Hajin was quite confused to see that. He was confused why there was a cat in a place like this. Evangel then called Hajin while tugging on his sleeve. She said that she wanted to play with Whitey. Hearing that, Hajin then asked, was that its name? Evangel confirmed it. Hajin didn't mind it at all, he also felt that the cat was really cute. With the dorm room where he lived now, he could keep one cat. He also always wanted to raise a pet, but Hajin didn't agree to it just like that. He then asked her, "What will happen to your spirit friends if you keep this cat? The cat might fight with them." Hearing that, Evangel confidently said that she would make sure they wouldn't fight. Hearing that, Hajin then showed his little finger to her and told her to promise him. Seeing that, Evangel then wrapped her little finger around his little finger and said that she promised, but Whitey didn't seem to be an obedient cat. Seeing Whitey biting her doll, Evangel then immediately scolded it. This was the day when Hajin was about to leave. Right before he left, he then told Evangel that he would be back soon. He also reminded her again that she must make sure not to fight with Whitey, but Evangel seemed to completely ignore him. She was busy scolding Whitey at this time. Hajin really felt helpless seeing that. She treated him as if he didn't exist. Even so, Hajin felt better this way. He could leave her with peace of mind. Time passed. He was now in Turin, looking at the passport in his hand. Hajin was quite nervous at first because this was a fake passport, but he managed to enter without any problems. He guessed the chameleon troupe was indeed this good. As Hajin observed the surroundings, he had a slightly strange feeling. In the novel he wrote, "Italy is a unique country. One of the main reasons is because there is a mafia. Based on the plot of the world, they are slightly different from the existing criminal groups. They look like they are hostile to the government, but they always work together when monsters appear. They form guilds and can run their business at night and day. They live by following the boundaries of the law, at least for now, although sometimes there are bastards who take advantage of that power. The Korean mafia, where his target is located, is the strongest mafia group among other mafias, and he has to kill one of their members." Hajin can only sigh in frustration thinking about it. To be honest, he feels there is a possibility that this mission even comes from the internal Korean mafia itself. While Hajin is immersed in his thoughts, someone suddenly called him. It was a voice that was quite familiar to Hajin. He then surprisingly turned his head towards the person. The person turned out to be the boss. After that, Hajin then turned his suitcase back into a motorcycle. The boss looked amazed at that. Hajin then asked her, "Did you come to help me?" The boss replied no, she would not help him. Hearing that, Hajin confusedly asked, "Then, why are you here? What are you going to do now?" The boss was silent for a moment. Hearing that, she then replied, "I want to take a walk." There was still plenty of time. She then took Hajin for a walk around Turin. Hajin could only be stunned to hear that. Meanwhile at the cube, Nayun was tired at the moment. She seemed to have been training with Suho. Seeing Nayun who lay limply on the floor, Suho felt it was natural, because they had been sparring since the end of class. Seeing Yona who was just silent as if she was thinking about something, Nayun then asked her, "Why don't you spar?" But Yona was just silent at her question. She was still thinking about the little girl who was with Hajin yesterday. She was very curious about who that little girl was. Nayun then got annoyed to see her ignoring her, but Yona still did not respond. She thought it was impossible for Hajin to have a child at that age. She wondered, could it be his niece? But she immediately denied the conjecture. She felt it was impossible, considering Hajin was an orphan. She also did not find out about his relatives in her investigation. Seeing Yona immersed in her thoughts, Nayun then irritably asked, "What were you thinking about earlier? Were you rejected by Jonghak or what?" Her question seemed to have triggered Yona. Nayun was right, because Yona had been rejected by Jonghak when she asked to study together. Yona then immediately replied with sharp words. She said that Hajin said she hated her. Nayun gasped at that. She was also surprised by her sudden words. Suho was the same. She then asked her, "Are you serious?" Yona smiled faintly. She confirmed it. The rumor had spread widely in the academy. She also said, "If I were Hajin, I would also prefer Rachel over Nayun." Nayun then felt annoyed hearing that. She was upset to see Yona continue the topic. Seeing that, Yona then asked her, "Why are you angry? Didn't you say you hated him?" Nayun gasped at that. The atmosphere suddenly became tense at this time, with Nayun and Yona both silent without saying anything, and Suho who was in the middle of them, could only feel confused. Suho then immediately asked the two of them, "Why did you suddenly fight?" But Nayun ignored his question, and just walked away from there. Seeing that, Suho then confusedly asked her, "Where are you going?" Suho was really confused by the atmosphere between the two of them. Why did they fight, even though their relationship was fine just now? Meanwhile in Turin, Hajin was riding his motorcycle while carrying Boss at this time. They seem to have been traveling around Turin. Hajin was quite confused by the boss's thoughts at this time. He wondered, did she really just want to go for a ride? But, the boss suddenly said to him, "There will be a gathering at 9 p.m. Hajin was surprised to hear that. He knew it was a clue for this apprentice mercenary mission. The boss explained, the location is at the Leoran mansion in Turin. The target is the organizer of this gathering, and there is an abandoned church in the forest near the mansion." Hearing that, Hajin then opened his smartwatch and started navigation to the address. The boss continued, "The top of the church is very high. It is a perfect place for a sniper." A few moments later, they then arrived at the abandoned church that the boss mentioned earlier. Seeing the vines covering the walls of the church, Hajin wondered, how long had this church been abandoned? Hajin then immediately climbed the walls of the abandoned church to get to the top. The boss seemed to be quite surprised by his sudden action. When he got to the top, Hajin then saw a luxurious mansion not far from there. He wondered, that was the mansion, right? He also felt that this was indeed the perfect place as the boss said. The boss then asked him, "Can I watch over you while you carry out the mission?" But Hajin said that it was a little uncomfortable, so, he then asked her to leave. The boss could only be silent hearing that. Seeing that, Hajin then once again asked her to leave there right now. The boss understood. She then walked away from there. Hajin stared at her departure for a moment. After the boss disappeared from his sight, Hajin then refocused on his mission. He activated the 1,000-mile eyes and observed the mansion from a distance. He estimated the distance of the mansion to be approximately 1 kilometer from his current location. This is the distance that a hero can reach within 30 seconds, taking into account the time when they understand the situation and find his location. He only has 1 minute to escape. After further observation, he also vaguely sensed the existence of a mana barrier around the mansion. He was grateful that the barrier was still weak because the event had not yet started. Seeing that the time had already shown 8:35 p.m., Hajin thought she should start getting ready. After that, Hajin then took out his sniper rifle from Stigma's mana. Not only that, he also used Identify to strengthen the sniper as well as the bullets, but the rifle was only strengthened by 25%, while the bullets were only strengthened by 22%. Seeing that, Hajin felt that his luck was not good today. But he didn't mind that much. He would use Stigma's mana to strengthen the enhanced bullet with anti-demon properties. To get rid of all the evidence, he also had to make the bullet perish after penetrating the target. In other words, he didn't have to worry about mission failure. With his finger on the trigger of the rifle, Hajin thought, "I will kill him in one shot."